Hello and welcome everyone. I am Ujjwal from Aspire Systems. I'll be your host and moderator for today's session on 10 ways to increase enterprise productivity using SharePoint. I would like to thank everyone for taking out their time to join us for this session. As you all know, SharePoint can work as a collaboration tool for your disconnected employees, bringing them all together on a common platform. It can help you manage your e-content efficiently, which can be searched in seconds, and the real-time dashboard can provide a consolidated view of different reports from various business units. In today's session, we will look at the various common day scenarios which lead to loss of overall enterprise productivity and how SharePoint can help solve those challenges. We will have all the participants' phones set to mute. There will be a 10-minute Q&A session at the end. Please use your chat window to ask questions. We will also record the whole presentation and share with all of you in 2 to 3 business days. To give you a brief overview of Aspire Systems, we are an IT services provider company from past 14 years. We have 60+ active engagements and over 960 aspirants working on our core competencies in cloud, mobility, SharePoint, etc. We have offices in US, UK, India, and UAE, and have been ranked 19 this year in great places to work for in India. We are also ISO 9001-2008 certified. Today we have the pleasure of having 2 industry experts on SharePoint. Aju is the Enterprise Solutions Head in Aspire with 14+ years of extensive IT experience. He heads the Enterprise Solutions Delivery Unit and is known for his deep knowledge on latest trends and technologies including SharePoint. We also have Vinod with us, who is the Head of Business Development for India at Aspire. He has over 14 years of experience in consulting, delivery, and process management, with strong background in building highly productive solutions for enterprises using SharePoint. With that brief note, I will hand over the session to Aju and Vinod to take it forward.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ujjwal. So today we are basically going to cover 10 different ways of enhancing enterprise productivity using SharePoint. Though we actually say that it's 10 ways, we're going to actually talk about much more than that. And it's going to cover 3 different aspects of enterprises. One is productivity. Enterprise productivity is all about how do you do things in an efficient way in an enterprise and how you reap benefit out of it. And it's an evolving process. You kind of do that every day in and out. Keep watching your processes, the way people actually do things in your enterprise, and see if there are improvements which can be done. And technology is one such tool using which you can enhance enterprise productivity. We're going to talk about a lot of leakages on productivity which happens in enterprises because of broken processes, because of lack of technology, because of communication problems, because of hierarchy is not being set properly, and how SharePoint essentially can help us provide these solutions around enhancing the productivity. And to do that, we're going to actually adopt a scenario-based mechanism where we're going to talk about the problem statement first, which is me, Vinod. I'm going to actually essentially talk about problem statements in an organization and where I think the productivities are getting lost. And we have Aju, who's going to actually provide us the solutions for those problem statements and show us how SharePoint can enhance enterprise productivity. To do that, we are going to also have a fictitious company called Moxie Distribution and Logistics. And we are going to actually define few roles in this company, like finance manager, operation engineer, business unit heads. So you will see these roles actually coming onto screen and depicting a scenario which will be related to productivity and not having automated processes. And then we'll give you a solution around it. So that's essentially what we are going to do today in our webinar. So let's get started with a few scenarios here. So the first one we're going to talk here is about a sales executive who's newly joined Moxie's company, and he's looking for a proposal template and a contract template. He's got a new lead from Middle East, and he's supposed to actually give the proposal on distribution of mobile phones across Middle East for a manufacturing company. And since he's new, he's not well aware where to go and ask for this information. So he chats around with people in the organization, and he kind of gets different answers from each one of them. There's no standardized way of looking at templates and contracts. So one of them says that why don't we check with the finance? Someone comes up and says, hey, I saw that new template in a shared folder, and the other one starts probing him, asking which geography are you looking for? I mean, which product line are you looking for to actually give you a proposal or the contract, because each one differs a lot. And one of them says no, hey, let me send you an email with the latest proposal and the contract. That's going to really help you, and you can use that as the standard for sending or preparing your proposal, right? And he gets different kind of answers from every employee, and essentially what he does is that he kind of has confidence in one of the employees on what he says and goes with it. He takes up an attachment from the email which he's got from one of the employees and starts working on it, and he puts in about 10 hours of effort into it and then submits the proposal to his manager, right, finally the next day, assuming that he's going to actually get some brownie points around it, and the manager is going to be really happy that he took a lot of volunteering effort here to get the proposal done. But this is what happens, right? The manager is kind of not happy. He says, where did you pick this old version of the contract? A lot of work which you have done is not correct, and it kind of wrong in a lot of sense. And the contracting clauses have been modified. We no longer provide 9 months of warranty. We only provide about 6 months of warranty to our customers. That essentially can actually end up in a big problem if they sign the contract. And look at this tax calculation which you've done. It's completely not working for the geography you've taken. It's for the Middle East, and tax calculations are not done this way. So of course the sales manager is not happy with this whole thing, that the proposal has not come out well, and the sales executive is kind of not happy as well, because this is the first effort he kind of put in. So what's the way we can actually solve this problem, right? How do we overcome this typical problem of documents floating around in the organization in different channels and causing enterprise productivity loss, right? Because everyone's searching for a document. Imagine like a 1,000-member company, 50 people searching for a document every day in and out. That can be a huge loss. So can SharePoint help something on this? Let's hear it from Aju, what he says on that.
Hi, this is Aju. So just like Vinod has pointed out, a very, very challenging scenario where you're searching for a document and a lot of versions of the document floating around and stuff like that, and you're in a situation, you don't want to be in this kind of a situation that he has mentioned. So how does SharePoint help? SharePoint actually provides you the ability to store your documents in a document management library within a SharePoint, and you can actually basically categorize them in different folders based on geography. You can categorize them based on product line. So different types of templates can be used by different departments. So in this case, it could be proposal templates or contract templates as applicable to the sales department. It could be other department templates that could be related to maybe purchase department. It could be related to the HR department. So you have the ability to basically categorize these documents, keep it in a centralized location. As you can see here, different types of documents can be stored: Office documents, PDF documents, it could be AutoCAD drawings, stuff like that. So all of these documents are available and different versions. You can maintain it in a version control system, which is again provided by SharePoint. The authors of the document can basically check out the document, make the modifications to it, and check in and ensure that the latest version is available to the employees, to the respective departments, so that they can use it. So the key thing that we would actually want to conclude here is, the latest version of the document is available. It's in a centralized location. The salespeople or the respective stakeholders get access to the relevant folders or relevant documents that they're looking at, and they ensure that the right versions are available. So there's no issue of using an old version of the document, or you don't spend time looking at where the document should be found. You don't have to look at emails. You don't have to look at your shared folder. all of this is in a central location, and if you're in the sales department, you have access to all the templates for the sales department. So that's how SharePoint can deliver productivity for you.
Well, that's good to hear. Hopefully the operation manager and the engineer can actually have a document management setup in their organization to resolve this problem of theirs. So the second scenario we have here typically happens when a policy gets changed in an organization and the employees are not notified about it. Not just the modification of policies, but new policies getting created, and accidentally you seem to be not abiding by those policies, and then you kind of like get into trouble. Here's an operational engineer who kind of went on travel and spent amount of hotels and car rentals, which are much higher than what the policy says. Apparently, Moxes have actually changed the policies and have had like a new tie-up with new hotels and car rental companies, which actually gives them a better deal to have some savings for the company. And this was done by the finance manager, but then the operation engineer had no clue about it, right? So the finance manager asked him, like, no, why don't you read the new policy? And the operation manager obviously has an exclamation on his face saying that, what is the latest policy? I never heard about it. When was this done? I had no clue about it, right? That's what his expression. So how the SharePoint can help him? Apparently the operation engineer wanted to know that when the policy change happens, he's kind of like informed or notified about it. If that happens, probably a majority of this issue can be resolved. Now, can SharePoint actually create notification systems which can send data or information or notification to relevant stakeholders who are to be updated about the change? Is that possible?
Absolutely, Vinod. SharePoint has that capability. So what the problem which Vinod had actually articulated here because of having a wrong version of the document or not being aware that a new policy has been rolled out with a better rate for the hotel and for the car rental. The HR manager in this case could have easily used SharePoint to basically author the new policy document, take it through the regular approval process that she would have otherwise done manually, and she would have got the approvals for the document before it gets published through different stakeholders. If the business unit head needs to validate it or the finance department needs to validate it, different people can basically approve the documents once it's authored by the HR department. And once that's done, and you can take it through the workflow, which is, as you can see here, you have an interface, simple interface, where you can initiate a workflow, for the documents or for the process that you have that needs to be approved. And once that's done, you can basically publish the document. And once the publishing is done, relevant stakeholders in the organization would be notified. For example, in here, you have a reimbursement template or a reimbursement policy or claims reimbursement policy which has been changed. So relevant people in the organization would get notified by email saying that the policy is changed. So in that case, he goes back to the repository to ensure that he goes and uses the new version of the document, which is obviously the only version which is available in SharePoint. So that basically removes the ambiguity of having an older version and not being aware of that fact. So the notification engine within SharePoint is very powerful, and you can have that done to subsections of your enterprise for different departments or for the entire gamut of employees within the organization. So you can configure notifications to different people in the organization so that they get notified if a policy changes or a document changes, the contract versions have changed or anything of that sort. Relevant people in the department or the organization will get notified. So this is a classic example where, you have an easy interface for the author of the document to publish it and ensure it goes through a proper workflow through different stakeholders in the organization. And once it's published, relevant people are notified so that they ensure that, the news is spread out and it's not just lost in just an email.
Okay, great. How many of you have actually noticed your employees committing the same mistake again and again? I've seen that happening a lot of time, and that's probably, I think, most annoying thing for a manager or top management, that they are not able to control the same mistakes happening in an organization again and again. You go through a process, you're doing a particular activity, you've done a mistake, organization has taken a loss around it, and you want to make sure as a manager that nobody actually repeats this mistake again. But you seldom see that happening, right? So these are the questions which kind of like pops up in an operation manager's mind who's responsible for all the logistics, is that why are we reinventing the wheel again and again? If a department has done a mistake, is there a way another department can learn from it? If an employee has done a mistake, is there a way another employee knows about it? And if we have done certain things in the past, can we try to reuse those processes, those documents, those knowledge, and the experience which we already have, right? Everybody wishes to have this kind of a solution, but the problem is we don't. Somewhere down the line, it slips through the crack, employee leaves, the manager leaves, or a particular process is not being governed properly, you tend to go back to square one. And of course, if you look at the finance manager, she agrees totally with the operation manager here, right? And coming from finance, she does a quick math saying that due to this mistake or repeating the same things again and again or inefficiencies, we may probably be losing about 5 to 10% of the total working hours of our employee base, right? So if you have a 1,000-member company, right, essentially you're losing a lot of hours, right? 10% of that, right, is a huge number if you calculate that. That's essentially what finance manager is worried about, as in totally agreement with the operation manager. And I have personally seen this happening again and again, especially when newcomers join in, especially like where you don't take lessons from the past experience. So I would be very much interested to know if SharePoint can help resolve this problem. Both of them, of course, seems to have no clue about it, how this can be done. Let's hear from Aju if he has a solution for this.
Consolidation of knowledge across the enterprise is the key for increasing productivity and in enhancing, time to market and stuff like that. So knowledge which is scattered right now in the organization can be consolidated and as and when knowledge is acquired. So what SharePoint brings to the table, it provides an easy interface where people are allowed to enter KB knowledge-based articles or knowledge-based entries into SharePoint as and when you come across such situations. It could be issues related to the IT department when he's troubleshooting an issue with an Outlook or an Internet Explorer, or something related to the operations side in terms of how a specific activity needs to be done or how a process has to be done with respect to how do you get reimbursements of claims, how is tax calculation done for a specific geography. All of this information could be stored within SharePoint under different categories if it's specific to specific product lines, if it's specific to particular geography, specific to certain other parameters. So once it's classified and stored within SharePoint, SharePoint's search capability as well as fast search capability allows you to quickly retrieve this information stored under different categories to be pulled out so that people who do not know that information and a new IT engineer has joined and is going to troubleshoot a problem that he's seeing at the front desk or at the desktop level. And if you search this within SharePoint that somebody has done that activity before and stored that information, he could actually view that and does not have to further explore and find out how it needs to be resolved. So basically you reduce the time of basically additional exploration or reinventing the wheel. And as you can see here, it provides you a good interface to actually categorize your knowledge-based information under different folders, and different people can add entries into this, and people can search. It's a good search interface to basically display that information to you.
So essentially you're saying that, for example, if Moxis actually comes up with a new route to deliver its products to its end distributors, and that new route has been updated in SharePoint, I can go and search and get it. And can I type what are the keywords I can type? How does the search kind of work here?
So basically what happens is when information is stored within SharePoint, SharePoint itself categorizes the information based on metadata that is retrieved from the document that is getting uploaded. So all of this information would be actually searchable. So in fact, when you start typing in your keywords, it will automatically search within different contents that have been uploaded. It could be Word documents, it could be knowledge base articles, anything which is available within SharePoint which is being entered into would be searched and would be displayed to you in different categories. So that makes your life easier in terms of what you want to. You'll basically retrieve the information at a much faster pace.
Sure. Moving on to the next scenario. So this is all about approvals, and this has personally been one of my nightmares. When you send things for approval to your manager, you have to first tell them that, hey, you have sent something for approval. Then you kind of send them a couple of reminders that, hey, there is something which is pending on your table for approval. And then finally, they will have 5 queries on that. Then you kind of answer them back. And your approval process takes ages to get done. So here, an operational engineer is in a big trouble because the approval was not done, right? Their project is delayed because the raw material is not arrived on time. And why is that? Because the vendor has not delivered them the raw material. And apparently, it looks like they have not paid the vendor's last bill. And when the operation engineer talks to his operation manager, he says that, hey, I've submitted the bill some 20 days back to finance. I don't see a reason why it's not being approved yet. And then, of course, an escalation happens. It goes to the finance manager. And here's what the finance manager says. And looks like she has left a voicemail to the operation manager, and operation manager hasn't looked at it. And the glitch here is that the master contract needs to be re-signed or need to be reworded in such a way so that the approval for payment can be done. And the operation manager, of course, is kind of frustrated, thinking that had I known that the approval is not done for so-and-so reason, I could have got the contract revised, right? And he's a bit worried that his project is delayed and how he's going to face the business unit head. And this just doesn't happen for invoice payment. I've seen it happening for reimbursement. When I put my bills for reimbursement, things doesn't get updated on time, and you get your money back in 2 months, 3 months time. And it can happen for budgets as well. There may be some critical tasks that you want to do, and you have sent the budget approval stuff over an email, and it's not getting approved. And I've also seen conflicts happening because of this, because delayed approval causes organization a lot of money in terms of project delays and other issues. And when that happens, there's conflict, and then there is a blame game which starts as to where the problem really was. I would be really interested to see if there is a solution around approvals, all kind of approvals in an organization. Is it something which can be automated?
Interestingly, SharePoint has a good solution for business process automation. So in this case, where basically when an invoice of a vendor is basically submitted for payment, SharePoint gives you the capability to configure workflows for this process where you can submit invoices to the finance department, and it allows you to take you through a workflow. Having this solution on a system basically allows you to configure all the relevant touch points in terms of approvals, sending reminders. So when an invoice is submitted for approval, it goes to the respective department, and that respective department will be able to see the invoices which are pending that needs to be approved. And in this case, as the finance manager rightly pointed out, that there's an issue with the master contract or some other document, associated document, which is preventing her from approving the invoice. So she could basically reject the approval and basically send back her comment, which will automatically be sent to the the submitter of the invoice, so that he can make suitable changes to the master contract, or send that information to the vendor so that he can negotiate some aspects of it and get it changed so that the invoice can be resubmitted with the associated documents. So all of this process can be automated within SharePoint, and suitable approval mechanisms, rejection mechanisms, notification that so-and-so invoices or processes are waiting for your approval. And all of this is automated, so it makes life simple. So people don't have to, go through their email searching for, what are the tasks which are completed, what is not, how many approvals are rejected. So all of this can be shown in a simplified dashboard for relevant stakeholders to understand how many invoices have I submitted for approval as far as the submitter is concerned. How many invoices do I need to approve as far as the finance manager is concerned? And if a person goes on leave and if the process is taking a lot of time and it's getting delayed, despite the notifications that are going, there could be escalation mechanisms that can be built into the system where it actually gets sent to the, the skip level manager for what's happening if there's a delay. There's an option to even set off a delegation option if you're on leave for somebody else to do the approval mechanism. Ability to basically send out email approvals, so you can receive your approvals via emails, and the manager who's on a travel can actually approve it via email on his cell phone. So multiple options of approvals are possible within SharePoint with the workflow capability built into it. So it can apply to any business process that you have in your organization. So these kind of problems are basically dealt with. All the loose ends are closed and tied, and you're basically getting much more productivity out here.
Right. Hopefully, in Moxus we can now have a approval workflow which can shorten the cycle time for approval and get us away from all those issues related to delayed approvals. So the next interesting thing is the reports part of it, right? If you're a manager, you kind of need all kind of reports, and if you're a business unit head, you want data for all different warehouses, all different geographies, business development, sales-related data, operation-related data. And without data, it's essentially not possible to manage a large business, right? So the business unit head obviously needs reports in different formats, multiple years. But sometimes it gets annoying for the people who collect this data if they have disparate systems, different departments generating different reports, and different systems having different formats, and all the more when the business unit head keeps changing the request, right? Here you look at the business unit head is asking for a past 3-year report by end of day to an operation manager. Obviously, the operation manager didn't like that because last time around, he had asked for the overall cost of inventory by region for last 2 years. Now he had made it 3 years across the board. And he has to now go back to different departments and talk to different department heads to get the data, assimilate the data, put them in an Excel file or some other tool in a nice format, and then send it back to the business unit head. With no options left when your boss asks you to get you something, he is working overtime to get this data onto the business unit head. And he completes the report and sends it to the business unit head, assuming that his job is done, and here's what happens. Obviously, the manual way of working has caused some errors in the report and kind of caused a dislike from business unit head, and you don't want to be personally in that kind of a situation. So is there a way, I'm not really sure if SharePoint can be used for reports or business intelligence, and does it connect to disparate systems like your ERPs? It can be any ERPs in the market. Can it connect to all of them, collect data, and put them in a nice graphical way so that you can remove this entire manual process and also satisfy the business unit head in such a way that where he can slice and dice the data himself and produce or look at the reports, in other words, and thereby kind of giving a peace of mind for the operation manager. Let's see if we have a solution for this.
Interestingly, SharePoint has that capability to basically pull data from multiple sources. Interestingly, most organizations, the longer the duration of the organization has been in existence, they have disparate systems. They have ERP systems, HRM systems, CRM systems, and a lot of other systems where data is actually residing. It could be for different departments, and for different reasons they have it on it could be in legacy-based systems, legacy databases and stuff like that. And without a consolidated tool like SharePoint, it becomes difficult. So what SharePoint allows you to do is basically, it allows you to basically connect to different systems, pull information which is available in different formats, and allows you to display that information, after processing. So SharePoint in itself, will use aspects from the Microsoft stack, which is basically Excel services, SQL Server reporting services, and basically SQL Server analytical services to basically pull data from different sources and basically crunch that information and then show it to you in different formats. You can have graphical formats, tabular formats, as you can see, and all of this information could be displayed to you, to the manager or whoever is actually wanting to see a dashboard of this information. And this, once it's done and it's configured, you can actually see it based on different geographies. So the business unit head wanted to, at one point of time wanted to see it for 2 years. He doesn't have to go back to the operations manager to find out what the information is required for, a different duration of time. He can slice and dice the information at his will, provided the report is, optimally configured to give that information. He can slice and dice that information based on geography, based on different regions that he has, different product lines, and he'll be able to get that kind of information that he's looking for. Though the information is basically coming from different systems, it could be legacy, it could be modern, and things like that. So basically a different dashboard for a different set of people in your organization.
Great. So next, I want to talk about social media a bit. I'm not a great proponent of social media, and I think that it actually causes enterprise productivity loss. I see employees accessing all these social media sites during the work time, and I have also read articles about companies shutting down these sites within the network, giving them no access at all. But I also hear a different school of thought called enterprise social, and and companies claim that that can really help boost enterprise creativity, innovation, and all those different aspects. Here we see a group of people in the company discussing about their problems, and I would be really interested to know if there is a solution for this using enterprise social. And the HR manager in a large organization which is spanned across multiple geographies really feels that the employees are disconnected, right? The DNA of an employee based out of America is different from somebody who's in a different geography, right? They don't feel the oneness among them. They don't feel they're working for the same goal. He wants to know if this problem can be resolved using enterprise social and thinking in silos, right? There's a lot of discussion happening in the organization or concerns which are getting raised, which are spoken between the employees in different locations like cafeteria or a coffee place. And these things just don't come across to the management at the right time. So there are discussions happening, positive, negative, it's happening, but the HR manager is not aware of it. And the business unit head, of course, wants to have a lot of creativity and innovation in an organization to get a competitive edge. But then he is real worried about how do you make this happen? How do you conduct brainstorming sessions across the board, right? Do we have to arrange all this meeting all the time formally? And you have seen that formal meetings, a lot of people don't open up. So he really wants to explore if there is an informal way of having these sessions so that these ideas can come up in an organization. And it doesn't necessarily have to be top-to-bottom kind of an approach. They want to see if the bottom-to-top approach can be adopted here, which is like employees at the bottom of the pyramid can contribute a lot to the company's growth by giving their ideas and being part of the brainstorming session. One second. Seems to have some trouble here. Just hold on a second. Hopefully you can hear me now. Just give us a couple of minutes. We seem to have got into some technical trouble here. Okay. Hopefully you can hear us now. Sorry for the trouble there. And the employees, of course, they feel kind of like lost in large organization because they feel nobody is kind of hearing their voice. So that's their concern. So I want to see if there is a consolidated solution for all of this, which can benefit not just the HR manager, business unit head, but employees as well. Let's see what Enterprise Social can do for us on this.
SharePoint's Enterprise Social capability is pretty interesting. They have a lot of features within the Enterprise Social world, basically revolving around discussion forums, polls, and other community blogs and stuff like that, which is restricted to the organization. So people don't float around, don't need an internet connection, which is basically going out and touching up LinkedIn or Facebook. So basically all of that collaboration and communication happens within the organization, instead of like Vinod was talking about, where people are apprehensive and airing out their opinions, during those official company meetings, directly talking to the CEO or the department heads, could basically air those thoughts and views in a forum, which is basically created for the employees. So you can have discussion forums which are created either by the employee or initiated by the HR department, across different, topics of discussion. So basically people can air their views. So all of this, associated with discussion forums as well as, polls. You can have polls in your organization which basically talks about how the employees are feeling about a particular activity that is happening in the organization. It could be some policies that are there, something related to, specific, activities that you have rolled out in the organization. And if you want to check pulse how people are feeling about whether that's a good policy, a bad policy, are there different views about it, all of this can be basically checked within using SharePoint, using concepts of polls. And that information would actually go up to the top-level management or department heads to basically, collect that information and feedback and make suitable changes if they feel so. Now, employees at the same hand also have, feel that, they have a forum to basically air their views and opinions about things that are happening in the organization. There was another problem that Vinod was basically pointing out, which is related to, if there's a business problem and you're basically, or a business challenge, or a business opportunity itself, you're basically looking at, how other employees feel about it, or other people in the organization, which may be spread across different geographies, would have different views around it, or would have a better solution. So bringing in creativity, people at the same time would feel that, their views are heard, they have an opportunity to participate in decision-making in the organization related to, whether you need to be opening up an office in a new geography, whether, you want to add a new policy specific to maybe, how mobile usage happens in the organization and stuff like that. So all of this information or, information gathering and collaboration could happen through SharePoint using discussion forums, community forums, polls, blogs, and information like that. So it could be used at a personal level, it could be used at a department level, it could be used across the organization, so different people can talk to each other in a more informal way instead of directly, airing their views through meetings. So it's a pretty interesting, tool.
Great. I'm convinced that Enterprise Social is going to help out. When I think from a positive perspective that people share views and thoughts and there is no cross-learning which happens, but how do you govern, say, negative negative comments or negative thought process or rumors kind of like spreading through this social network in an organization, is there a way or a policy, social policy or governance which can be actually deployed to make this happen? Would like to hear some views from Aju on this.
Well, SharePoint is an open forum. If you start, there are options within SharePoint to basically, you can have moderation of comments that can be done. It's generally not recommended. So the flip side of all of this is basically upper level management, department heads also get to feel what's the pulse of the employee. If you start restricting that, the general pulse of the organization is not felt by top level management. So, but if you do want to moderate this information or moderate comments that are being posted, and if you feel that certain comments should not get published, you have that opportunity within SharePoint to basically moderate information that is posted. Yes, it is possible to moderate, but at the same time, different companies would have different policies to regulate, the information that is being shared. And at the end of the day, I think you'd also have to leave it to self-discipline. How people, need to be mature, and we leave that, to the employee.
Right. I would agree on that. So the next one is personalized portal. A lot of times what happens is we have multiple systems in an organization, and some for leave management, some for requesting overtime, some for reimbursement policies. And the employees kind of get multiple user IDs and passwords for each one of them. They have to go through the learning process for each one of them. So I would be interested to know if there is a way where we can have an employee self-service portal which an employee can use to access all the related information what they want, and kind of personalize the page for them, more like a personalized portal for employees. That can really help simplify the thing, and it should also provide access in such a way that in a single window I can access my leave system, my benefit management system, my payroll related data and stuff like that. Though they are coming from different systems, I would be really interested if there is some kind of integration which can be done, and this information can be shared from a personalized portal aspect.
Very interesting. At the same time, very challenging situation. Most enterprises use different systems for different processes that they have. They could have an HRM system where actually their leaves and benefit management is stored. On a day-to-day basis, you might be using an ERP system from a different vendor to basically do his order processing as far as the procurement department is concerned, or do some sales order processing if it's related to the sales department. So you access different systems, and each of these systems would have its own user ID and credentials, which the user has to basically remember. So what you can do is, despite having different systems, SharePoint allows you to basically consolidate all of that, into a portal where you can provide links to these different systems, and instead of keying in the user ID credentials in a different user ID credentials, you can enable single sign-on capability from SharePoint to those different systems, and allow you to basically just click on a link within SharePoint to the and then be able to access that application immediately without opening up another application and then keying in the credentials again. Now you have different systems, and different people have different systems that they have access to. You can configure SharePoint so that relevant people in your organization have different applications configured in their startup menu to basically access. And like you see here, the person whom we have here has access to his Outlook webmail, the ordering system, and the data warehouse system. Now, this set of applications can be configured to a different set of applications for a different employee. Now, for this employee, he gets to see his home page over here with a set of clever tools on the top, and to see the company calendar on the top and stuff like that. And all of this is configurable and can be personalized, at an individual level. And if he doesn't want to, see certain aspects like, the calendar info or something related to that, he can actually basically hide that information and can be personalized for a particular user. So at the same time, if at the organization level you want to ensure that the company information is definitely displayed. You can mandate certain information to be shown and certain parts of the web page to be configurable based on, the user preference. So you will get personalization as far as the employee is concerned, ready access to applications that, the end user basically access day to day. He doesn't have to remember different user ID passwords because you have a single sign-on and easy access. All of this is possible through SharePoint by SharePoint integration capabilities.
Okay, great. I mean, so far we had like 7 scenarios, and these were the different productivity issues in an organization. And I think you have provided some great solutions for that. The last one I have here is all about project-related information. A lot of time when we do projects in our organization, we don't get proper updates or information about it. Here, the operation manager has some questions to the IT head in terms of when the project will be delivered, and the typical answer which we get from the IT head. Here we're talking about the warehouse migration project, and the IT head kind of like says that let me check and get back. And he pretty much does the same thing for all kind of questions related to the project. And I've personally done a lot of project management, and one of the things which we struggle to have is like information about projects or statuses, which is available to all stakeholders at the appropriate time, and central repository where they can actually have a look at the progress of the project, and if there are any delays, why is the delays, any kind of risk mitigation and the solution for that. So those are the different things which are kind of like missed out, and if not planned well, the projects generally get into trouble. And here you see the operation manager asking like, has the business user been given the dates for user acceptance test, right? So there's multiple questions, but we see the IT manager not having an appropriate answer for any one of them. So I want to see, is there anything in SharePoint which is related to project, kind of like pre-built, available for like companies to use it right away from the SharePoint out of the box?
So, the IT manager coming back and saying, or the IT head coming back and saying, I really don't know what the current status is because he needs to go back to his project manager. It's a very typical situation. Just imagine, projects are very dynamic in nature. There are a lot of risks in projects which could basically hamper the time schedules. Different stakeholders involved, multiple stakeholders, different people have different dependencies for certain tasks for the project to move. And if there are issues in any of those, keeping real-time information of all of that on top of your head without having a system is very challenging. SharePoint provides you that capability in a team site. It allows you to configure basically project-related information. It could be right from the requirements, information related to the test cases, the plan for the project. All of that can be brought into SharePoint by integration into the Microsoft Project Server. Allows you to integrate with your project plans. You don't have to basically share your project plan, through emails to different stakeholders to ensure that everybody has the same status and stuff like that. So you can basically have a single interface for all your task management, all your risks, identify what tasks are completed, what is not, what are the issues that are pending, and what risk status is there, when is the start, when is the finish, and stuff like that. All of that into a single interface. Right from requirements, right down to UAT and post-deployment, you have it in a single interface, and that's what SharePoint brings to the table.
That's great. That's good to hear. So we have had a lot of solutions given from Ajay today on SharePoint on different productivity issues. And here's a consolidated view of what all you can do with SharePoint. It's about enterprise collaboration, enterprise dashboards, enterprise content management, application integration with your ERPs, other services like upgrading, maintenance, and all of that, which you kind of like have to manage if you're using SharePoint, and of course composites, which is like integrating, creating custom flows, process automation, and stuff like that. So these are the different features which SharePoint provides, and you can relate all of these to the discussions and the scenarios which we had. And I'm fairly convinced now that yes, SharePoint can provide a lot of enterprise productivity enhancement with the inbuilt capabilities, and you also get a unified platform to build custom application on top of SharePoint. So one of the other things we wanted to discuss or cover in this webinar was how do you calculate the ROI for productivity, right? How do you calculate the ROI for investing on SharePoint licenses, SQL licenses, and then also customization? And the typical problem what we have seen in the enterprises is that though they relate to all these scenarios which we talked about, the big thing which they fail to do is consolidation of these problems happening across the organization and trying to derive a value for that productivity loss. To give you an example, a search of a particular document can take about, say, 10 to 15 minutes for an employee because they don't have a proper structure in place. So they check with employees, they search different emails and stuff like that, losing 15 minutes of time, whereas it should take something less than a minute. And imagine if you have like 1,000 employees and every day there are about 50 employees searching for the documents, right? So you lose a lot of time. That's about 50 employees into 15 minutes a day. Calculate that for a month, for a year, and as your organization grows, the number of employees kind of increase as well. Now, if you look at this ROI calculator, this is what we're trying to solve, right? We have seen enterprises sometime ignoring the fact that yes, it's taking 10 minutes, or yes, we have conflict management or reimbursement, that's about fine. We are okay with it. Sometimes we lose time. But what they fail to understand is that if they consolidate all that effort lost, it's a real huge value which they are losing. So this calculator, what you see here on your screen, essentially helps you to put in data in terms of how many hours you're losing on rework, on document search, on waiting for approvals, on collating data, project coordination. And if you put these hours, and here we have taken an example company whose number of employees, and the cost we spend per employee per hour is about 300 rupees if you have to talk in INR. And then it calculates the amount of loss you're making for about 3 years in productivity, right? And if you actually go back and put the investment and the application you want to build on SharePoint, you can get a nice productivity ROI calculator here, which shows that in 3 years' time, I mean, you're breaking even or even gaining the profits right from the first year, and like, you know, for 3 years you see a consolidated figure there. Of course, this is going to change by organization to organization. This is just a calculator which you feed in data and helps you do the ROI part of it, which can then help you take this case to your management and discuss about it. So that's all on the organization productivity loss and how do you manage that using SharePoint. And thanks a lot, Aju, for all your solutions. I'll hand it now over to Ujjwal.
Thanks, Vinod. That was really wonderful to know all the different solutions and how the common day scenarios in everyday practice can be solved using SharePoint solution. So, well, quickly we'll move to a couple of polls which we have before we move to the Q&A session. So I'll just send a poll here and would request everyone to kindly provide their answers for this.
So about 75% of respondents have said that they don't have SharePoint. One of the things which they could do to have a kickstart is using SharePoint Foundation, which is a free version. You may not be able to leverage all the features of SharePoint Enterprise or standard version, but you can definitely build applications and smaller utilities around this to to have a kickstart in your organization using SharePoint. And once you roll out a couple of applications which automates the process in your organization, and you get a buy-in and you have a good adoption rate, then you can probably think about getting into the SharePoint standard license, right? That's probably one way of getting a quick start on SharePoint.
Okay. Thanks everyone for providing your answers. We have one more. We'll just quickly roll out the second one. Hope you all can see the poll, the second poll. Would request you again to provide your answers, please.
Wow, that's a fantastic response. Everybody in this group is agreeing that enterprise collaboration using SharePoint can actually improve enterprise productivity. That's really good to see. Sure, so some of them seem to have a neutral view as well. About 20% got these votes just at the neck of the moment. 20% seems to have a neutral view, and 80% seems to agree with it. Thanks for the response there.
Sure. So we are done with the poll. So request everyone to please pass on their questions using the chat window so that I can have my panelists answer the questions of yours. So I request everyone to kindly pass on their questions now so that we can have the questions. Okay, so first question here we have is SharePoint also serving the purpose of a BI tool, or does it have to integrate with a BI tool to achieve the functionality? I request both Vinod and Aju to please answer the question. Please answer this.
Sure. As mentioned in one of the scenarios where we talked about consolidation of information within SharePoint. So SharePoint in itself is not a BI tool, but it helps you aggregate information, using services from the Microsoft stack, or it could be other tools which are available in the market though. Things like Excel services, as I mentioned before, SQL Server reporting services, SQL Server analytical services, all of this could help you consolidate that information, and then SharePoint brings you a single interface with a good look and feel to essentially help you slice and dice that information and then show it in different dashboards for different stakeholders. So it in itself is not a BI tool, but it serves as a consolidation of information from different services or stacks which are available from the Microsoft stack to actually basically process the BI information and basically show it onto a dashboard.
Okay, thanks Aju for the answer. We have another question coming up. What will be the cost to set up SharePoint for 10 users? What all kind of licenses are required for it?
Sure. So I can quickly take that one. This is Vinod here. SharePoint essentially needs from a hardware side, you need to have Windows 2008, 64-bit. That's more on the hardware side of it. So if you already have hardware, so that's kind of taken care. On the SharePoint license, you can start off with the standard edition, and the standard edition server cost is about $5,000. And for every user, you will have to pay about $80 as a user license cost. Sure, it may vary from like geography to geography a little bit, but those are the costs on the standard edition. On the enterprise license side, you will have to pay another $80 extra per user. There's no separate server license cost on the enterprise. It's just that if you pay $160 a user, you end up with enterprise. If you pay $80, you end up with standard license. So hope that answers your question.
Sure, Vinod. The another question we have is, what is InfoPath?
So basically, InfoPath is another feature of Microsoft, which is part of the Microsoft Office suite. InfoPath basically brings you the forms capability within SharePoint. So basically, when we talk about business process automation, when we talk about manual processes, we are very familiar with forms, physical forms. So those physical forms, if you want to automate, and if you want a similar look and feel within SharePoint, you can use Microsoft InfoPath forms or InfoPath services to basically have the same form look and feel within SharePoint. Allows you to basically feed in those information with different checkboxes, text boxes, and all of that, and basically take it through a different workflow. So InfoPath basically gives you a form kind of a look and feel inside of SharePoint. That's what InfoPath is.
And InfoPath features are available only in the standard
Enterprise
edition of SharePoint.
Right. That's correct.
Okay. Thanks, Arju and Vinod, for the answers. Do we have any further questions? I'll request everyone to please pass on their questions as soon as possible, since we'll be closing the session in a couple of minutes. Okay, we have another question here. We are already having a production tracking system developed using ASP.NET. Is it possible to integrate this with SharePoint?
Yeah, I'll take that question. Yes. If you have an ASP.NET application, not just ASP.NET, if you have a web application, that is possible to be integrated with SharePoint. You can basically use SharePoint, web part viewer to basically host different applications. It could be an ASP.NET application, a Silverlight application, or even a Java web application, which can be hosted within SharePoint. Or basically, it's basically viewed in SharePoint. So you have a single interface to basically access those different applications. So yes, it is possible to integrate an ASP.NET application into SharePoint. So the levels of integrations could vary. It could be just the viewing of the application and accessing that application within the same interface of SharePoint, or it could be even, data level integration that is possible with the ASP.NET application. Yes, it is possible to integrate.
So we also have a follow-on question on the license, if SharePoint license has to be renewed every year. This is a perpetual license, so you don't have to renew it every year. It's a one-time cost which comes to you. It's a perpetual license. And in my last response, I kind of missed on another factor, which is the SQL Server license. SharePoint also needs you to buy SQL Server. That's again a perpetual license, which you have to buy either standard or enterprise, costing between $5,000 to $12,000, depending on the license you want to go.
Sure. Thanks, Vinod and Arju. So would like to close this session now here, and I would like to thank all our viewers or attendees who joining us for this educational session. Hope it was a good learning experience for all of us. As mentioned before, we will be sharing the recording with all of you